Hey, Spectrostormy, or do you want to select it to me? Spectrostormy, come show me a video. In this video, I am going to be doing, Create the Town Rest SCPs, which are inspired by Captain Sauce. So, without further ado, let's roll intro and let's get into this video, and let's go. Like and subscribe if you enjoy this video. Hello, it's me Jaden, and from SCP 4.5. I am here telling y'all about more SCPs we have under our care. Let's start, shall we? First SCP is SCP-7018, also known as a weird name of Fluffles. No idea how he got this name, it's just what we got for him. He's mostly seen for being naked all the time, but the weird thing is, he literally has a censorship in real life. We can mostly get him to wear underwear and some shoes, so we don't gotta see him walking around all the time. His containment level is safe, but do be warned, when ticked off or angered, he has been known to be able to punch right through the doors. Like punch right through and knock them off their hinges, and he's also known to be pretty fast and durable. He's a near invulnerable person with a good placed weapon to the skull, and when he's killed, he will eventually come back. Sometimes his brain can pop like a zit, and other times he can just straight up massacre you like there's no tomorrow. But he's usually a friend. He is quite friendly until he encounters. Oh, I messed up. This is not a SCP 4.5. 7018. This is 7017. Sorry. Until he encounters 7018, the one who paints the town red. Containment levels Keter. I'll tell you more on that one in a minute. Now, for his abilities and anomalous properties, he has, well, besides superhuman strength, durability, and all that, it's barely above. Like I was saying, it's barely above regular human levels, but he is still be able to become super strong. He also has the anomalous property of, whenever you have pants on him, they always disappear and disintegrate within a few hours, ranging from a few seconds to maybe a few hours. We have no idea why, but he's just known to wear boxers and shoes around the place for most of the time while he's here. Let's move on to the next one, shall we? I've already said this one, but I'll say it again. SCP-7018, subject name, the one who paints the town red. Containment level, Keter. Now this SCP, I'm going to have to go read from our database, from the old SCP database, because this one just came up while I was going through to see if there's anything I need to change or update. And all I did was just update the number. According to this containment procedures, this SCP should be contained in a standard humanoid containment cell with reinforced tungsten titanium walls and a power dampener nearby. Powers, which is something I'll get into later. Description: this SCP is a faceless humanoid with varying degrees of clothing, but all the time has red hair and no face. and is always known to be able to get into a fight with nearly anyone. Powers can emit shockwaves, move super fast, and use an ability called Berserk, and also use another ability called Smite. Description of Smite: it can tell you've been selected when you start to glow and a white box appears around you. And then you look up and a giant rectangular hollow box thing just flies down on top of you, but followed by a laser. Sometimes this laser, it will immediately kill you, but most of the time that will happen, but very rarely will you survive. Now, for the interesting bit I found while researching. According to this, these SCPs are, for the record, all four of these SCPs, SCP 7017 all the way up to 7020, are all tied to a game known as Paint the Town Red, and a YouTuber named Captain Sauce. Turns out he used to play this game for a while. I don't remember what the effect is called, but as long as you believe in something so much, it will eventually come true. That's what theory stated anyways. Now, most people nowadays will find this game, will find the anonymous version, for the record. And when they play the game, there's always going to be a massacre somewhere in any state or town. It's completely random. And sometimes there will be, how do you say, a death of the script player. And nowadays, the thing will just respawn back in a random location. We've installed a tracker in it a few times, but nothing's happened there. We decided to go off its unusual energy layout. But without further ado, let's move on to the next one. SCP 7019, subject name Tangerine of Terror, containment level Euclid. Description: appears to be a regular old tangerine. Other than the skull face and a few anomalous properties, it's just a regular tangerine. Powers, containment procedures first. SCP-7019 should always be contained in a glass container locked in a tungsten titanium vault, approximately 5 feet in diameter, and both length, height, and depth. Reason being is with another power dampener nearby. I feel like the power dampers are something we've invented in 4.5 in order to dampen the powers. It works for pretty much any SCP as long as we can fully understand them. It actually used to work, does still work very occasionally on my father, SCP-630. What was the guy's name? I've gone through so many SCPs I forget his number, but known as the indestructible reptile. Really hate the guy. Continuing on these SCPs, SCP-7019 always lets off occasionally will let off a impulse to kill pretty much for someone to walk towards it and pick it up. And will always give the person the impulse to kill. It lets off radioactive signals, just more or less a way to drag your attention towards it. And once you pick it up, sometimes it will just squash up against it, and other times it will literally insta-kill the person you're trying to hit, regardless of whether or not they're wearing armor. And the skull usually glows a bright red when it is being used to polarize someone's head, and should be always be contained in the containment cell until it's being tested. Anyone who uses this is known as Tangerine Terror. I've had a few run-ins with this SCP myself, and just to say it's nasty of what it can do to the human body, it's an understatement. But according to that, that's pretty much everything for this one. Let's move on to the next one, shall we? Okay, so for the final today, I'm going to be going over the final SCP of these four. There are more, but I'll go over them some other time. SCP-45, number 7020. Subject name, Omni-Weapon. Containment level is Euclid. Description. This is usually a cloud of little undisclosed creatures, possibly nanobots, that can form any weapon the user wants. Can range from 1 to infinite uses. It's completely randomly generated each time. And not just how many uses, it's also completely randomly generated, and the amount of weapons and ammo they have. For some times, they can actually manifest a gun out of nowhere, and other times it can completely manifest a complete arsenal, or just completely build just up one weapon. Once the user wins the game, or the level, or actually dies, the weapon would, well, even in our possession, once we just place it down, it will immediately disperse back into a black mist and go back into the containment cell where the rest of it remains. This SCP is by far one of the most interesting we have in our database, but it's also one of the most helpful. We have tried making into weapons like a crystal shard that can kill the indestructible reptile. Didn't work out. This cross test happened when one of the higher ups came down to us with the idea of using SCP-7020 back when we used to work for them. We still kind of do, but we are slowly desegregating from them. They came down with us for the idea for that, and like I was saying, the higher-ups came down to us for that information. We decided to run that test, and what happened was SCP-685, finally remembered, 685, the indestructible reptile, is now impervious to crystal shards. You can use a regular crystal shard to try to kill him, but crystal shards from 7020 will no longer work on him. But that's all for today. See you next time. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's video, because I'm afraid that's all the time I got for today. Until next time, subscribe today, join the Sparkers to me, or Demos Alliance. Goodbye and peace out, everyone.